Let Peter go on.
I think there are two genders. So, but some of us think that there is more than one, or more than two. Sorry, more than two gender. I think there is male and female, and the rest probably is a social construct.
A sitting congresswoman asked a man who wants to lead one of the two most powerful political parties in America one simple question. One question, and he cannot answer it. By the time this video is done, you will understand exactly why that moment matters far beyond committee room in Washington. Like and subscribe right now, because this is the kind of content you are not going to want to miss.
But in this particular one, a security issue, one that involves international law, whether countries still respect those international laws laid down after the Second World War, do you think that that brings a new rift within the West? Ukraine, the U.S.'s position. Are you talking to me? Yes, I am.
I think that the Trump administration's position toward Ukraine is disgraceful. I think the effort to force Ukraine into a surrender deal with Putin is shameful. I think the effort that Putin and Trump are making to profit off the misery and death of the Ukrainian people is a historic error and corrupt to the nth degree. And so I believe Ukraine is fighting for our democracy and our values of freedom and civilization, on the front lines, losing thousands of people and having their country destroyed by one man's mania to control them. And I think Trump either doesn't understand or could care less about that suffering. So that's what I think.
And so do you think he has destroyed the West, to go to our title?
He has betrayed the West. He's betrayed human values. He's betrayed the NATO Charter, the Atlantic Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. A lot of what has been done before to try to make sense of how difficult it is to restrain people who want unaccountable power. And none of us in this room, including all of us on this panel, would choose to live under a regime that was so unaccountable that it could act with impunity the way that Putin does, except that's who Trump is modeling himself
I don't think
after.
we would be having this debate under that kind of regime, for sure. We will come back, I suspect, to the conservatism and liberalism clash within the West, but thank you for that. Peter, do you agree that the Trump administration's actions on Ukraine have produced a rift in the West?
Well, first, I think you really don't like him.
You know, that is absolutely true. But I really, not only do I not like him, I don't like him because of what he's doing to the United States and the world. And I think you should take a hard look at it if you think that there is something good that will come out of it.
Peter,
what I think Trump is doing in America, I think it is reaction for something that, for some policies that really went too far from the regular people, too far from reality. So, you know, we saw the cancel culture. We saw the woke revolution. I don't agree with the gender revolution, the climate alarmism.
Which gender? Women having their rights?
No, let Peter go on.
I think there are two genders. So, but some of us think that there is more than one, or more than two. Sorry, more than two gender. I think there is male and female, and the rest probably is a social construct. So this is something that went too far.
But does that justify selling out the people of Ukraine who are on the front lines dying to save their freedom and their two genders, if that's what you're worried about?
Can I please finish my points? I'm sorry that it makes you nervous. I'm really sorry for that.
It makes me nervous. It makes me
but seriously, can we let Peter finish, please? Can we let Peter finish, please?
I have to say one more thing. You said that Ukraine fights for our future and for our freedom. I think first Ukraine fights for Ukraine's future, Ukraine's freedom, and Ukraine's sovereignty and independence. So we should help them, of course, but what I see on some people in the West, they are trying to help the Ukraine. but that's another question. I don't know if Trump's administration is helping the Ukraine to stop the war. I believe that there is such an approach. I don't see any other strong geopolitical player who would be able to force Russia to stop killing the Ukrainian people and stop destroying their country. I don't see. Maybe China, but China makes nothing. I don't know if the pressure, if Trump is forcing Russia in the way that they will stop the war. I don't know. I only see that the only Americans right at the moment can make it.
There are moments in politics that cut through all the noise. No spin required. No editorial commentary needed. The exchange speaks entirely for itself. What happened in that committee room between Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina and Martin O'Malley, former governor of Maryland and candidate for chair of the Democrat National Committee, was one of those moments, and it deserves a serious, honest breakdown. O'Malley walked into that hearing as a man auditioning for one of the most consequential jobs in American politics. The chair of a national party does not just manage logistics. That person sets the tone, defines the message, and represents the philosophical direction of an entire political movement. So the questions asked of him are not trivial. They are an audition, and auditions have consequences. Representative Mace opened by walking through O'Malley's record, and his record is not a matter of opinion. It is documented policy history. As governor of Maryland, taxes, tolls, and fees were raised on constituents 83 times. That includes increases to sales taxes, income taxes, and the gas tax, along with a series of new taxes on services. If you are a working family in Maryland during those years, you felt that. That is not rhetoric. That is arithmetic. She also walked through his immigration policy positions, support for mass amnesty, legislation allowing individuals without legal status to qualify for in-state tuition at public universities in Maryland, legislation allowing those same individuals to obtain Maryland driver's licenses. These are not allegations. These are bills he signed. His signature is on the paper. Now, reasonable people can debate immigration policy. That debate is worth having. But what is not debatable is whether these policies existed. They did. And when a candidate for national party leadership has a record like that, it is entirely appropriate for a congressional representative to put it on the table. Then came the question. Representative Mace asked O'Malley to define what a woman is, and he could not do it. Let that sit for a moment. A man who wants to chair a major national political party, who will be expected to craft messaging and policy positions that speak to hundreds of millions of Americans, could not produce a definition for one of the most fundamental categories in human experience. He gestured at her. He referenced her presence in the room. He deflected. He did not answer. She then gave him a second opportunity. She asked him to define what a man is. He referenced his sons. He did not provide a definition. Now, some will say this is a gotcha question, a political trap. But consider what that argument actually concedes. If defining a woman is a trap, it is only a trap because the honest answer creates political problems for one side of this debate. That is not a reflection of the question being unfair. That is a reflection of a policy position that cannot survive direct scrutiny. Words matter in law. Categories matter in policy. When legislation is written to protect women in sports, in correctional facilities, in shelters, in locker rooms, those protections depend entirely on a clear and consistent definition of the category being protected. If the person who wants to lead your party cannot define that category, you have a serious problem. Not a talking points problem, a governing problem. Mace then moved through a rapid series of yes or no questions. She asked about statements made by a Democrat colleague the previous day, characterizing a victim's fear of assault as a fantasy. She asked whether that characterization was accurate or acceptable. She asked about the party's record on identification requirements at the ballot box, on athletic competition, on private spaces. O'Malley struggled throughout. He pivoted to talking points about economic security. He spoke about the well-being of every man, woman, and child in America, which is an interesting choice of language from someone who could not define either of the first two categories 60 seconds earlier. Here is what this exchange actually reveals, and this is the part that matters beyond political theater. There is a growing gap in American public life between the language that officials use in policy settings and the language that ordinary citizens use in everyday life. When a governor signs a bill into law that allows individuals of one biological category to use the private facilities of another, and then cannot define either category when asked directly, the question that follows is a reasonable one. On what basis was that law written? If the category does not have a working definition, what exactly did the legislation protect, and for whom? These are not hostile questions. They are the kind of questions any serious policy analyst, regardless of political affiliation, should be asking. Law requires precision. Precision requires definition. Definition requires the willingness to state clearly what you mean. Mace made another point worth examining carefully. She noted that only 2 Democrats voted with Republicans to protect biological women in athletic competition. 2 in a chamber of hundreds. And this, she argued, is not an outlier position within the party. It is a platform. Whatever the official language says about economic security and national well-being, the voting record tells a story, and voting records are public. Now, I want to be fair here. O'Malley walked into a hostile environment. Committee hearings are not structured for a calm, nuanced discussion. They are adversarial by design. And Mace used every second of her time aggressively. That is her right. That is the format. But the purpose of that format is accountability. And accountability requires that the person being questioned engage with the substance of what is being asked. Deflection is a choice. So is clarity. O'Malley chose deflection every single time. She closed by noting his presidential campaign record. He entered the 2016 race as a progressive challenger, received 0.5% at the Iowa caucus, and withdrew. She offered him good luck with his current bid. The room responded accordingly. The deeper issue here is not about one hearing or one candidate. It is about what voters across the country are increasingly noticing. When officials cannot give straight answers to straight questions, it does not read as nuance. It reads as avoidance. And avoidance, over time, erodes a one thing that no political party can afford to lose: trust. Clarity is not cruelty. Asking for a definition is not an attack. And expecting the person who wants to lead your party to be able to articulate basic positions in plain language is not an unreasonable standard. It is the minimum. America deserves officials who can say what they mean and mean what they say. Whatever your politics, that should not be a controversial position.